Okay, today's topic is going to be ordering fractions. Let's look at a real quick example of, we'll say 3/10, 4/10, 2/10, and then we'll do 1/10. And let's say somebody said, can you put these in order? And you had to put them from largest to smallest, from smallest to greatest, or from least to greatest. Let's look at these. When they're all over the same denominator, you simply need to look at the numerator and decide which one's the smallest, which one's the largest. So I'm looking at the one on the right side, and I know that 1/10 is going to be the littlest, or the smallest fraction, the least. I know that the 2 would be next, so 2/10. And then I see the 3/10 up there, and then I see the 4/10. Now I would have these in order from the least to the greatest. All right. Notice, though, on these, the denominator is exactly the same all the way across. So if that's the case, it makes it real simple for me to compare these and order them together. Well, unfortunately, it's not always going to be, you're not going to always have two fractions that have the same denominator, or three fractions or five fractions that are going to have the same. So you might say, well, how do I do some fractions like I have here listed, where I have 3/5, 2/5, and 1/2? How do I order these in the correct order? Well, a lot of the ordering can come from comparing these fractions. So let's do that using some math. I have written down here a 5 and 2 because my denominators are 5s and 2. I'm going to look for a common multiple of 5 and 2. So I'm just going to count by 5s here. I'm going to start with 5, 10, 15, and we'll go to 20. Why not? 20. Now let's start with 2. Let's go 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and I'm looking here, and I was looking for a common, that means one that they have the same. I see a 10, and I see a 10. I know that 2 times 5 gives us 10, and I know 5 times 2 gives us 10 here. So in order for me to get a common denominator, or one that's the same so I can compare them just like earlier when they're really easy, I need to multiply and find an equivalent fraction that's going to help me do this. So with that in mind, now let's go and see if we can show you how this works. Okay, on the previous picture, we just looked at and found some common multiples, and we said 10 was the one we're looking for, because both 5 and 2 for our denominators have a 10 in common. The multiple of 10 is the common. Well, I want to ask myself, how can I get from 5 to 10? Well, I could multiply times 2. And remember, to get an equivalent fraction, one that's equal, if I multiply my numerator and denominator by the same number, it's going to give me an equivalent fraction. Now watch how this happens. 3 times 2 is 6. 5 times 2 is 10, so 6/10. I just simply basically made an equivalent fraction for 3/5 is equal to 6/10. Down here, we're trying to get something over 10, so we do the same. Multiply times 2. 2/5 times 2. 2 times 2 is 4. 5 times 2 is 10. Now let's go 1/2. Oh, now this one was a little bit different. I can still get this over 10, but I have to multiply something different than I did up here with my 2. It needs to be a 5. So if I multiply my denominator times 5, I have to do the same thing with my numerator. 5/5. 1/2 times 5/5, or 1 times 5 is 5. 2 times 5 is 10. Now look at what we have just done. We have just made it very easy for us to look at the size of these fractions to order these from the least to the greatest. Now also be careful that when you list these, you don't list them as 6/10, 4/10, and 5/10 in your answer itself, because remember, you were asked 3/5, 2/5, and 1/2 up here at the top. So you need to be sure that you keep those over the same denominators, but you can look at your answer key down here and know which one is which. For example, 6/10 is going to be the same thing as our 3/5. So with that in mind, now I can really write these fairly quickly up here at the top. I'm going to look to see, okay, which one, this one right here, our 4/10 was the smallest. We're ordering these from least to greatest. So 4/10, which was actually, when we started, 2/5. So I'm going to write that, 2/5. And I'm going to cross this off so I don't use it again. And next I'm going to look, I see 5/10 and 6/10. Well, 5/10 is going to be the middle value here, the one middle size. And that was my 1/2. So 1/2 comes next. And I only have one left. And I look over here and sure enough, it's 3/5. So now I have these ordered. 2/5, 1/2, 3/5. I have these put in order from least to greatest. Okay, let's do 3 more. Notice the first thing I do is I look at my denominators down here, and every single one of them is a different size. So that tells me I need to find a common denominator. So I'm going to just go ahead and list out and look for some multiples here. And I'm going to look to see if any of these numbers have a common multiple in the set I make. Okay, I'm going to see if, counting my 6s, 6, 12, 18, 24. Okay, I just went 4, why not? Now let's do 4, 8, 12, 16. Okay, I'm starting to see something. I saw one that was the same. Let's see if this is 12, 24, 36, 48. I wonder if you see any that all 3 of those numbers have in common. I do see a 12. They all have a 12 in common. So that tells me I need to multiply my 6 by 2 up here to get that over 12. I need to multiply my 4 times a 3, because 3 multiples gives me 12, or 4 times 3. And down here, I just multiply times 1, or I can already keep it 8/12. Okay, now I have my information over here. I need to go ahead and find some equivalent fractions. So you might have remembered that we found 12 to be our common multiple. Well, on this one, if I already have 12 here, I simply am just multiplying times 1. So I bring that over. You might remember that times 6 is going to give me 2 times 6, or 6 times 2. Well, equivalent fraction rule, numerator and denominator, about the same thing. 4 times 3 was going to give me a 12. So do the same thing to the numerator. 3 times 3 was 9. So we have 10/12, 9/12, and 8/12. Now I can definitely order these. But remember to look at your original on each one and write that. Because look at 5, 6, 3/4, and 8/12. Okay, with using this information at the top, I know that 8/12 down here at the bottom is my least or smallest. So 8/12 would be first. Next is going to be 9/12, or we started with 3/4. And again, I'm going to cross these off so I don't use them again. And then sure enough, 10/12, or 5/6 was the next. So now we have ordered these from least to greatest by finding the common denominator between all 3 fractions. And that's going to do it. It's that easy, and hopefully you're catching on. And remember, it's a beautiful day in this neighborhood. Till next time, bye-bye.